We often imagine innovation as this sudden, almost magical flash of insight.
Yeah, like a light bulb going off, the eureka
Yeah.
moment.
Exactly. Or maybe this perfectly smooth upward curve where progress just, happens effortlessly.
We love that idea, the overnight success story.
But what if the reality, the actual experience of a true breakthrough, whether you're talking about a huge company trying to reinvent itself, or maybe just you trying to change a habit you've had forever, what if it's far more complex?
More demanding, definitely.
And, well, honestly, a lot more uncomfortable than we like to admit.
That's a really powerful point. It's often overlooked, I think. Our instinct is always towards comfort, isn't it? Path of least resistance.
Always.
But like you're saying, the really profound breakthroughs, the shifts that genuinely redefine what's possible, they rarely seem to come from that place of ease.
No, they seem to demand something else. A willingness to actually sit with, maybe even lean into discomfort.
Exactly. And, in this deep dive, we're going to unpack a fascinating paradox. It's right at the heart of human progress, really.
Which is?
Well, it's the idea that true innovation and profound personal growth, too, they don't actually spring from comfort and certainty. Not really.
Okay. So where do they come from?
They seem to emerge from our willingness to embrace and navigate discomfort, uncertainty, and, the very real struggles that just inevitably come with any meaningful change.
Finding wisdom through the messiness, maybe?
That's a great way to put it. Finding wisdom through the mess. We pulled together a really intriguing stack of sources for this one.
Oh, yeah. What kind of stuff?
Everything from foundational management theory, Peter Drucker kind of stuff, to ancient mythology, the hero's journey, practical philosophy, stoicism, and even insights into, habit formation, how we actually change day to day.
Wow, that's a broad range.
It is, but they all seem to converge on this surprising truth, that the path to real growth is often paved with challenges we instinctively try to avoid.
Right. So to kind of set the stage, maybe we start with that Mary Lou Cook quote?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Creativity is inventing, experimenting, growing, taking risks, breaking rules, making mistakes, and having fun. Now that sounds fantastic, doesn't it? Like a perfect mission statement.
Totally. Full of joy and possibility.
But notice those middle bits. Taking risks, breaking rules, making mistakes.
That's where the discomfort lives.
Exactly. It hints right there at the messy, uncertain side of actually creating something new.
And that idea gets echoed, maybe in a more intellectual way, by Albert Szent-Györgyi. He observed, "Discovery consists of seeing what everybody has seen and thinking what nobody has thought."
Okay, thinking what nobody has thought.
Yeah, and that leap beyond the obvious, beyond what everyone else sees or accepts, it almost always requires stepping outside of comfortable, conventional ways of thinking.
Right, you have to challenge things.
You do. It demands a different approach, one that isn't afraid to question the status quo, even if it feels unsettling, even if people look at you funny at first.
It's about finding the courage to question the familiar.
Precisely.
So, as we journey through these insights today, we'll explore how the systematic organizational innovation stuff,
Drucker.
the archetypal hero's journey, you mentioned mythology.
Yeah, Pressfield's take on it.
And philosophical leadership, how they all kind of converge. They seem to reveal this unified path to growth.
A path where embracing discomfort isn't just like an optional extra.
No, it's the very price you pay for wisdom and progress.
Well put.
So let's get started. Let's dig in.
Okay.
When we talk about innovation, our minds often jump straight to, flashy new tech, disruptive startups, maybe the latest gadget.
Sure, the shiny objects.
Yeah. But Peter Drucker, in Management Challenges for the 21st Century, he lays down this really foundational truth, and it stretches way beyond just, commercial products.
Okay. What's his core idea?
He basically asserts that innovation isn't just a competitive edge for businesses, it's the single core competence that every single organization needs.
Every organization. Not just like tech firms or product companies.
No, every organization. He means nonprofits trying to serve their communities better, government agencies trying to deliver public services more effectively.
Even like a school or a hospital.
Absolutely. He even implies it applies to families adapting to change. It's universal.
That's fascinating. He really broadens the scope there, doesn't he?
Yeah.
From something trendy or optional.
Right.
To an absolute necessity for survival and growth.
Exactly. He's basically saying that for any system to not just survive, but truly thrive in a world that's constantly changing, it must innovate.
It's like biology almost. Adapt or, stagnate.
Precisely. Think of any living thing. If it stops adapting, stops evolving, stops finding new ways to deal with its environment, what happens?
Stagnation sets in, then decline.
Yeah. Without innovation, long-term vitality is just impossible. He sees it as this fundamental requirement for adaptation and growth, inherent in all living, striving systems.
And he stresses it's not just a gut feeling, right? Not just, yeah, we feel innovative.
No, not at all. He emphasizes the absolute need for a systematic way to record and, crucially, appraise innovative performance.
Okay, systematic. So metrics, measurement.
It's a careful, almost scientific approach to assessing something that often feels, intangible, hard to pin down.
You can't improve what you don't measure, or at least what you don't systematically examine.
Exactly. And he even gives us a starting point for this assessment that feels, backwards at first.
Oh, yeah. How so?
You might think you'd start by looking inward, right?
Oh.
At your own company's performance, your R&D budget, maybe your patents.
Makes sense. See how you're doing.
But Drucker says no. Start with external benchmarking. You need to carefully record the innovations across the entire field during a given period, not just your own stuff.
The whole landscape first. Why?
To get context, to see what really constitutes success, what's actually moving the needle in the broader ecosystem. He mentions top-flight pharmaceutical manufacturers as examples of companies already doing this.
So a university research department wouldn't just count its own papers.
Right. They'd look at every major publication, every big grant, every significant discovery in their entire field worldwide. They need that wide lens.
Okay, see, look outside before you look inside.
And then this external focus immediately forces you to ask a series of uncomfortable but absolutely crucial questions about yourself.
The uncomfortable part. Here it comes.
Yeah, it forces a level of honest self-reflection that, frankly, a lot of organizations might prefer to avoid because the answers can be revealing, maybe even painful.
Okay, let's hear them. What are these questions?
Well, the first one is, which of them, the innovations in the whole field, were truly successful?
Truly successful, so not just launched, but made an impact.
Exactly. Shifts the focus from just activity, like how many projects you started, to actual demonstrable success. Did it get adopted? Did it change things? Did it last?
Got it. What's next?
Then, how many of them were ours?
Ouch. Okay, so measuring your own contribution to the actual successes.
Right. Did you produce any of the major breakthroughs, or are you just sort of keeping up, maybe riding on others' coattails, quantifying your own creative output relative to the whole field?
It requires some real honesty.
It does. Then comes a cluster. Is our performance commensurate with our objectives, with the direction of the market, with our market standing, with our research spending?
Oh. Okay, that's a deep self-evaluation. Are we aligned? Are we getting value for our investment?
Precisely. Are your goals realistic given your performance? Are you keeping pace with where the market's actually going? Does your innovation output match your position or your spending?
Like, if you aim to be a leader in green tech, but your innovations aren't matching the market shift to renewables.
You have a critical disconnect. Are you putting your resources where the future actually is?
That leads perfectly into the next one, doesn't it?
It does. Are our successful innovations in the areas of greatest growth and opportunity?
Strategic alignment. It's not just about any success.
Right. It's about success where it matters for the future. You could be incredibly innovative, like making the world's best kerosene lamp just as electricity takes over.
Innovative but strategically irrelevant.
Okay, yeah. It highlights the difference between just being busy innovating and innovating in a way that actually drives future growth and relevance.
Then comes the really tough one, I bet.
I think so. It really tests an organization's humility. How many of the truly important innovation opportunities did we miss?
Oof, yeah. Not looking at your wins, but your misses, your blind spots.
This is where the real uncomfortable learning starts. Confronting what you didn't see, or maybe worse, what you saw and dismissed.
That's often where the deepest lessons are hidden, isn't it? In the failures and misses.
And the follow-up question is even more piercing. Why? Because we did not see them, or because we saw them but dismissed them, or because we botched them.
Okay, that's critical. It's not just that you missed it, but why? It's like a diagnostic tool.
Exactly. Like, unpack those 3 reasons he gives. Because we did not see them. What does that point to?
Ignorance, maybe? Lack of awareness? Not looking in the right places? Maybe not enough diverse perspectives?
Right. Insufficient market intelligence, maybe an insular culture, didn't talk to the right customers. Then, or because we saw them but dismissed them.
That sounds like pride. Or maybe faulty judgment. It wasn't invented here, or that's too radical, or Our way is better.
Yeah, think of Kodak dismissing digital photography initially, or Blockbuster dismissing Netflix. They saw it, but they dismissed it.
Pride or just? Misjudgment of the threat or opportunity? And the third one, or because we botched them.
That's incompetence, plain and simple. A failure in execution.
Right. Had the idea, maybe even started it, but couldn't develop it properly, couldn't fund it, couldn't bring it to market effectively. Execution breakdown.
And Drucker insists that understanding which of those three, ignorance, pride, or incompetence, was the reason for the miss is crucial.
Because it tells you what to fix, right? If it's ignorance, you need better intelligence gathering, more diverse inputs.
If it's pride, you need a culture shift, more humility, more openness to outside ideas.
And if it's incompetence, well, you need better processes, better capabilities, maybe different talent.
Exactly. That precise diagnosis is how you turn that uncomfortable ouch of failure into a powerful aha moment. That's forging wisdom.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Is there a final question in his list?
Yes. The final one brings it back to practical application. And how well do we do in converting an innovation into a commercial product or, into actual use if it's not a commercial product?
Right. Can you take the brilliant idea and actually make it real, make it valuable for users? The execution piece again.
Yeah. And Drucker admits this whole process, it isn't always about hard, precise numbers. It often involves assessment and judgment. But the critical point is it forces you to ask the right questions.
It really does. It feels very much like that Socratic idea of the examined life, but applied to an organization.
That's perfect parallel. Just like individuals grow through self-reflection, questioning assumptions, facing uncomfortable truths.
Organizations grow the same way. By honestly confronting their blind spots, their failures, their missed opportunities.
It's not about having all the answers immediately.
No. It's about raising the right questions, the uncomfortable ones that lead to deeper understanding and eventually to wisdom. The discomfort of facing reality is what births the insight.
That's a really powerful connection. And it makes me wonder, how does this systematic, sometimes really uncomfortable organizational self-audit, how does that relate to us as individuals?
Yeah, because most of us aren't running, multi-billion-dollar pharma companies.
Right, but we are trying to innovate in our own lives,
Yeah.
right? In our careers, maybe changing habits, learning new skills. We'll navigate our own uncertainties and struggles.
Absolutely. And that's a fantastic bridge because that organizational quest for innovation, even with all its systems and metrics, it has a deeply human, emotional, psychological counterpart.
Okay, how so?
Well, think about how we usually picture the hero. Strong, fearless, always knows the way, charging ahead with total certainty.
Yeah, the Hollywood version.
Right. But Stephen Pressfield, writing in Daily Pressfield, offers a much more grounded and frankly more relatable view. He says we have to take the word hero with a grain of salt.
Okay, take it with a grain of salt. Why?
He immediately challenges that idealized notion.
Yeah.
He strips away the glamour.
How? What does he say the hero is really like?
He says that in myth, and crucially in real life too, the hero is often lost, disoriented, stumbling, and bumbling.
Lost, disoriented, stumbling, and bumbling. That doesn't sound very heroic.
Doesn't it? But think about what a monumental point that is for anyone starting something new or difficult, a new business, writing a book, tackling a big personal change.
Yeah.
It tells you that feeling confused, uncertain, maybe feeling totally inept, that's not a sign you're failing or you're not cut out for it.
It's part of the process.
Often it's a sign you're actually on the path. You're navigating the genuine unknown. The discomfort is the journey in many ways.
And he uses mythological examples to back this up.
Oh yeah, classic ones that we often forget the messy details of. Think about Jason and the Argonauts seeking the Golden Fleece. Their journey was absolutely full of missteps, arguments, betrayals, impossible choices. They were definitely, as Pressfield might say, all screwed up a lot of the time.
Okay, I remember some of that. It wasn't smooth sailing.
Not at all. Or Odysseus. His journey home took 10 brutal years. He didn't just sail straight back.
No, he faced monsters, shipwrecks, got lost.
Exactly. Lost crew, made plenty of mistakes, faced constant setbacks. His heroism wasn't in avoiding the difficulties. It was in his gritty perseverance through all that confusion, doubt, and what must have felt like insurmountable obstacles.
And Pressfield lists others, too.
Yeah. Theseus navigated the labyrinth, Hercules and his labors, Perseus, Arjuna, and the Bhagavad Gita facing immense doubt, St. George, Quetzalcoatl. The pattern is consistent.
So the heroism isn't the absence of struggle, but pushing through it.
Precisely. Pushing through the disorientation, the feeling of being lost.
Which brings us, I guess, to Joseph Campbell's idea. The belly of the beast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
David Mamet talks about this beautifully in Three Uses of the Knife, quoting Campbell. He describes it as the time, which is not the beginning and not the end, the time when the artist and the protagonist doubt themselves and wish the journey had never begun.
Wow. That hits home, the dark middle.
That's the raw psychological reality of innovation, isn't it? That tough, messy, in-between phase. You're deep in the work of developing software, writing a book, trying to reform an institution, but the end is nowhere in sight.
The initial excitement has worn off.
Completely. You're exhausted, maybe resources are thin, and you start questioning everything. Your abilities, your purpose, whether the whole damn thing is even possible.
That's where comfort just vanishes. Utterly.
And it loops right back to that Mary Lou Cook quote again, doesn't it? Creativity involves taking risks, breaking rules, making mistakes.
Right. The making mistakes and taking risks parts are exactly when the hero feels lost, totally in that belly of the beast.
You can't get the breakthroughs, the transformations, without those moments of profound uncertainty, vulnerability, and the real potential for failure.
That's where the learning and growth actually happen, right? In those uncomfortable spots.
It's so crucial to get this. The psychological reality of doing anything truly new or challenging involves feeling lost, disoriented, stumbling and bumbling, maybe for long stretches.
It's not an anomaly, not a sign of weakness.
No, it's not a sign you're flawed. It's an inevitable, fundamental feature of the process itself. If you're doing something genuinely new, by definition, there's no clear map. You will get lost sometimes.
And recognizing that's what separates those who succeed from those who give up.
I think so. It's not that successful innovators or artists or leaders don't feel lost or overwhelmed. Of course they do.
But they keep going anyway.
They cultivate this stubborn persistence. Through the confusion, the doubt, the setbacks, they learn to embrace the discomfort, maybe even see it as a sign they're pushing boundaries, breaking new ground.
So Pressfield's framework, it really reframes the whole experience of struggle.
It really does. It helps us see that the discomfort we feel during innovation isn't a flaw. It's not a problem to be fixed or run away from.
It's a feature, not a bug.
Exactly. It's a necessary feature. Yeah. And just recognizing that can fundamentally change your relationship with struggle. Instead of dreading it, you can start to see it as integral, maybe even valuable.
As a necessary component of growth and discovery.
Yeah. The crucible where wisdom gets forged.
That's a really powerful way to think about it. Viewing struggle as a feature. Okay, so if the hero's journey teaches us that this internal struggle, this perseverance, is essential for individual transformation, what does that imply for leadership?
Good question. Especially when you're leading others through big, uncertain changes in an organization.
Right. How does this mindset, this willingness to embrace the struggle, actually translate into practical leadership? Does it?
I think it absolutely does. We've talked about Drucker's systematic innovation need for organizations and Pressfield's take on the messy human struggle of the individual hero. Now let's bring in what might seem like an abstract, ancient idea, but one that's incredibly practical for modern leaders. The Philosopher King.
The Philosopher King. Like Plato. Sounds a bit lofty.
It can sound that way, yeah.
Yeah.
But the core idea, captured beautifully by the Stoic philosopher Musonius Rufus, is actually quite grounded, he said. For I believe a good king is from the outset, and by necessity a philosopher, and the philosopher is from the outset a kingly person.
Okay, unpack that. A good king is a philosopher.
He's arguing there's a fundamental unity. Effective, decisive leadership isn't separate from contemplative wisdom. They require each other.
And you're saying this isn't just abstract fluff for academics?
Not at all. This translates directly into concrete action and immensely practical leadership, especially when the stakes are high and you're making decisions that affect a lot of people. It's not about retreating to an ivory tower to muse. It's about applying deep, systematic thought, clarity of reason, and strong ethical principles to the complex, often incredibly messy, problems of the real world.
Okay, give me an example. Make it concrete.
Well, there's this compelling anecdote about Israeli General Herzl Halevi. Here's a guy operating in high-stakes, highly dynamic military situations. A warrior.
Right.
And he said he found philosophy much more practical than business administration in his role as a leader.
Philosophy more practical than business admin. For a general, that sounds completely backwards.
It does initially, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Business admin seems all about practical operations, efficiency, strategy. Philosophy seems abstract.
Yeah, ethics, metaphysics.
Yeah.
How is that practical in a war zone?
Well, think about why he said that. War and leadership, he points out, offer an unending series of ethical decisions that require priorities, balance, and clarity.
Okay, ethical decisions under pressure.
Exactly. Business admin might give you tools for optimizing logistics or maybe crafting a plan, but it won't necessarily tell you how to weigh the moral implications of a really tough choice, or how to maintain composure under extreme fire, or how to inspire a team when things look impossible.
Philosophy gives you the framework for that kind of decision-making.
Yes. It provides the mental toolkit. It helps you clarify your core values, understand the potential consequences of your actions, and then apply those principles consistently, coherently, especially when you're under immense pressure, when the answers aren't obvious, and when the discomfort level is through the roof.
It sounds exactly like what Plato was getting at in the Republic thousands of years ago.
It really is. His vision wasn't just some theoretical utopia. It was a practical recognition that effective leadership demands that kind of systematic thinking, refined through philosophical inquiry.
That famous line, either philosophers should become kings, or those now called kings should truly and sufficiently undertake philosophy.
Right. He wasn't just being poetic. He saw it as a profound necessity. Without that deep wisdom and ethical clarity that philosophy cultivates, leadership could easily become, well, tyrannical or chaotic or just plain ineffective.
And history gives us the ultimate example, right? Marcus Aurelius.
The perfect example. Literally the philosopher king, emperor of Rome, facing immense challenges.
Wars, plagues, political chaos.
Immense pressures. Yet his personal writings, the meditations, show this mind constantly striving for reason, for fairness, for emotional balance, for virtue.
And his leadership effectiveness was tied to his philosophy.
Inextricably. He used Stoicism not just for reflection, but as an active guide for his decisions and actions, day in, day out, even, or perhaps especially, when those decisions were incredibly difficult and uncomfortable.
Okay, but Marcus Aurelius was an emperor. How does this apply to, us, to the listener?
That's the crucial modern connection.
Yeah.
There are fewer kings these days, as the source notes,
yeah,
but we're all leaders in one way or another. Think about it. You're a leader in your family, making decisions about well-being, future paths. You're likely a leader at work, maybe managing a team, maybe just leading by example or influencing strategy.
Or maybe leading an audience if you create content. Or even just leading a group of friends.
Exactly. And at the very least, you are the leader of yourself, making choices every single day about your health, your finances, your personal development, how you react to things.
So this ancient wisdom isn't just for emperors on a throne.
Not at all. It's for everyone navigating the complexities of modern life, especially when you're facing change, uncertainty, or difficult choices.
And studying philosophy, or at least engaging with its principles, helps build that leadership capability.
That's the argument. It cultivates reason and ethics. It gives you a more robust framework for making choices that align with your values and hopefully serve the greater good, not just your immediate impulses.
Because, as the source says, we cannot just wing it. Too many people are counting on us to do it right.
Yeah, the stakes are often higher than we think, even in our personal lives. Haphazard decisions impact others. Philosophy helps us act more intentionally, more ethically, especially when the path forward is murky or demands uncomfortable choices.
So let's loop this back to Drucker's innovation imperative. Leaders who have that systematic thinking, that ethical clarity, that philosophical grounding.
And the persistence to push through the discomfort we talked about with the hero's journey.
They're just better equipped to guide their organizations, their teams, or even just themselves through that necessary process of innovation and change.
They can see the discomfort not just as a roadblock to be avoided, but as a necessary, maybe even productive part of the journey.
Okay. But what does this systematic self-knowledge, this philosophical clarity, what does it look like when we apply it right down at the ground level? To the very practical, often daily struggles of, say, forming new habits or changing our own behavior.
Yes. That's the core question, isn't it? Because these big ideas about leadership and organizational change can feel a bit distant sometimes.
Yeah, when you're just trying to, get to the gym or stop scrolling on your phone.
Exactly. But this is where the rubber meets the road. It's the practical application of all these principles in our daily lives, especially around habit formation and personal change. This is where embracing discomfort for long-term growth becomes incredibly tangible, affecting your choices moment by moment.
And there's a paradox right there in our habits, isn't there?
Absolutely. You've got the pleasurable but shallow bad habits. The things that feel good now offer instant gratification, but ultimately work against your bigger goals.
Mindless scrolling, junk food.
Right. And then you have the uncomfortable but good for us, good habits. The things that are hard to start require effort and discipline, but pay off hugely over time.
Like exercising, meditating, learning a skill, tackling that hard project.
Exactly. And that distinction perfectly mirrors the whole wisdom through discomfort idea. The easy, immediately pleasurable path often leads to stagnation, while the harder, initially uncomfortable path leads to growth.
So, how do we navigate that conflict between wanting the easy thing now versus the better thing later? The source gives us a specific approach.
It does, a really clear 3-step approach to habit change that embodies this whole philosophy we've been discussing.
Yeah.
It applies innovation and growth principles directly to you.
Okay, step 1.
Step 1 is reduce the stimulus.
Reduce the stimulus, meaning make the bad habit harder to do.
Precisely. It
Right.
requires that same kind of honest, unflinching self-assessment Drucker talked about for organizations.
Yeah.
You have to identify your specific triggers for the bad habit. Is it boredom, stress, a certain time of day, a place?
So if I mindlessly snack watching TV,
Maybe you decide, okay, no food in the TV room, or only pre-portioned healthy snacks allowed there.
yeah,
If scrolling is the issue, maybe you delete the apps during work hours, or physically put your phone in another room.
you engineer your environment?
Yes. Make the undesired behavior harder. Don't just rely on willpower, which is often fickle. Be strategic.
Okay, makes sense. Reduce the stimulus. Step 2.
Step 2 is add healthy habits with similar rewards.
So it's not just about stopping the bad thing, it's about replacement.
Creative replacement, exactly. You can't just leave a void where the bad habit was. That often leads straight back to it. You need to invent and adopt positive alternatives that satisfy the same underlying need or offer a similar but healthier reward.
Okay, example.
So, if you used to de-stress by zoning out with TV for hours, maybe you replace it with a brisk 20-minute walk outside, or listening to an engaging podcast, or calling a friend.
Things that also offer a mental break or distraction, but are constructive.
Right. They fulfill a similar need, stress reduction, mental shift, but in a way that builds you up instead of potentially dragging you down. It's personal innovation. Finding new, better ways to meet old needs.
Okay, reduce stimulus, add healthy replacement. Step 3.
Step 3 is maybe the most direct link to the hero's journey stuff. It's practice putting ourselves in uncomfortable situations and being okay with it.
Okay, deliberately seeking discomfort. Sounds uncomfortable.
It is. But it parallels the belly of the beast, the necessary struggle. We need to actively seek out and learn to tolerate discomfort to build psychological resilience.
Like training a muscle.
Exactly. It's not about punishment, but about deliberately exposing yourself to minor discomforts so your brain learns to adapt, learns it won't kill you, learns not to immediately seek escape.
Like what kind of things?
Maybe taking a cold shower for 30 seconds, deliberately choosing the stairs, doing that one unpleasant task you've been dreading first thing in the morning, meditating for 5 minutes, even when your mind is racing.
It's about becoming okay with it.
Yeah, so that, as the source puts it, our short-term motivation system doesn't ruin our life by constantly pulling us towards immediate ease and away from long-term growth. You're deliberately training your capacity to endure the messy middle of change.
And there's a tool to help with recognizing when we're most vulnerable to slipping back into bad habits.
Yes, the HALT framework. Really practical tool for self-awareness.
HALT, what does that stand for?
Hungry, angry, lonely, tired.
Hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Okay.
It's incredibly insightful because it points out that we often default to those shallow, unproductive habits when we're in these vulnerable states, physically or emotionally depleted.
Makes sense. When you're hungry, you grab the easy junk food.
When you're angry, you might lash out or maybe numb yourself with something.
When you're lonely, maybe endless scrolling or seeking unhealthy connections.
And when you're tired, your willpower is basically shot.
Right.
You're susceptible to almost any easy default bad habit.
So the key is first just recognizing, I'm feeling hungry, or, okay, I'm definitely tired right now.
Yes. Identify the state. And then the goal is to consciously practice healthier responses, healthier remedies, instead of the old default.
Building that systematic self-knowledge.
Exactly. So you realize you're hungry. Instead of grabbing chips, you consciously choose a protein bar or some nuts. You feel angry. Instead of yelling or fuming, maybe you go for a run or do some deep breathing exercises.
Lonely. Instead of scrolling, maybe call a friend or go engage with a real community. Tired. Prioritize sleep or a short power nap instead of pushing through with caffeine and sugar, which just digs the hole deeper.
It's about building this robust internal system for dealing with discomfort and vulnerability, replacing old, unexamined reactions with new, intentional, healthier ones.
Precisely.
Okay, So the systematic self-knowledge, this ability to choose the uncomfortable but better path, what's the bedrock? What does it ultimately rest upon? Is there a core philosophy here?
I think there is. This systematic self-knowledge, and really much of what we've talked about today, Drucker's tough self-assessment, the hero's perseverance through the dark middle, the disciplined practice of good habits, it all seems to rest on some pretty foundational principles, particularly those you find in Stoicism.
Stoicism again.
Okay. Yeah, the source mentions phrases like, "My still mind reflects only peace and holiness," which points to that inner calm amidst external chaos. And that incredibly powerful line, often associated with Stoic thought, though, it's from Henley's poem Invictus. "I am the master of my fate, the captain of my soul." Those sound good, but are they just affirmations? Or is there substance there?
There's deep substance. They're rooted in a philosophy that emphasizes personal responsibility and, crucially, understanding where your control truly lies.
And this philosophical framework, it kind of ties everything together. Drucker, the hero, the habits.
I think it provides the anchor, yeah. The philosophical foundation that unifies these themes. It offers a powerful lens for viewing organizational assessment, personal struggle, and daily habit change. It helps us understand where our power actually is amidst all the uncertainty.
So what is that fundamental Stoic teaching?
It's often called the dichotomy of control. Basically, it says, well, we cannot control external circumstances.
Like market shifts, other people's actions, unexpected setbacks.
Exactly. The monsters Odysseus faced, the triggers for our bad habits that pop up. We can't always control those things appearing, but we absolutely can control our responses to those circumstances.
Okay, that distinction is key. Control the response, not the event.
It's not just key. It's profoundly liberating. It shifts your focus away from things outside your power, which are sources of frustration, anxiety, wasted energy, onto what is entirely within your domain.
Which is what? What do we control?
Our judgments about events, our intentions, the effort we put in, our character, our persistence, how we choose to react.
So using the examples, you can't control if a competitor launches a disruptive product.
Right, that's Drucker's external field.
But you can control how thoughtfully and effectively your organization analyzes it and adapts its own strategy.
Yes. You couldn't control the storms Odysseus faced.
But he controlled his cunning, his determination, his leadership, and finding a way through.
And you can't always control feeling tired or lonely or stressed.
But you can control your conscious decision to respond with a healthy habit, like rest or connection, rather than a detrimental default.
It puts the power back in your hands internally.
That's a huge perspective shift. So being master of my fate, captain of my soul, it doesn't mean you magically control outcomes.
No, not at all. It doesn't mean you can bend reality to your will or guarantee success.
What does it mean then?
It's far more profound. It's about controlling your effort, your attention, your persistence, your attitude. It means you get to decide how you show up, how you react to setbacks, how much disciplined effort you apply, regardless of what the world throws at you.
The ultimate internal locus of control.
Precisely.
And understanding this is what helps you navigate the uncertainty and discomfort of innovation.
Absolute vital. It empowers you to keep going when the hero feels lost, disoriented, stumbling, and bumbling. It helps you stick with Drucker's tough self-assessment, even when the answers are painful.
Because you know you control your engagement with that process, your honesty, your commitment to finding solutions.
Yes. It's the inner resilience that lets you embrace the feature of struggle, rather than being crushed by it.
And it connects acceptance and action really beautifully, doesn't it?
What do you mean?
Well, the Stoic idea of accepting what's outside your control, it's not passive resignation, is it? It's not giving up.
No, not at all. It's the opposite, really.
It's accepting reality as it is so you can stop wasting energy wishing it were different.
And pour all that energy and focus into taking wise, deliberate action on what is within your control.
And that, in its essence, is what true innovation and growth are all about. Adapting, creating, progressing within the bounds of what you can actually influence.
Well said.
Okay. So, let's unpack this last piece, though. How do these big insights, this philosophy of embracing discomfort, mastering our response, how does that actually translate into sustained long-term progress? Especially when, let's face it, our culture pushes instant gratification so hard.
That's a critical point. We're obsessed with the overnight success, the sudden breakthrough. We see the final result, the polished product, the transformed person, and we rarely see the years of quiet, often uncomfortable, grinding effort that went into it.
Yeah, the montage gets skipped.
Exactly. But the source gives us this powerful counter-narrative. summed up in a simple, profound Tanzanian proverb. Little by little, a little becomes a lot.
Little by little, a little becomes a lot. I like that.
It captures the practical reality of how sustainable innovation and genuine growth actually happen.
It's not usually the sudden flash.
No. Real innovation, whether it's a groundbreaking medical device coming out of years of research or a profound personal change, like overcoming a deep-seated fear, it's typically the cumulative result of consistent incremental effort, applied diligently over a long time.
The small, maybe unnoticed, daily actions.
Yes. The things that slowly but surely add up to something significant, maybe even revolutionary. It's the quiet commitment when nobody's watching, when it doesn't feel glamorous at all.
And this links back to St. George's idea about discovery, seeing what everyone else sees but thinking differently.
It does. We might imagine that different thinking happens in a sudden flash, like Newton and the apple. Right. Boom, gravity.
Yeah, the myth makes it seem instant.
But even Newton had been grappling with those questions for years. That ability to think differently about familiar things, to spot hidden patterns, to connect seemingly unrelated ideas, it rarely comes from a single spontaneous lightning bolt.
So where does it come from?
Usually it develops through sustained practice, through meticulous observation, through repeated engagement with a problem, through continually questioning your assumptions.
It's the accumulation of those little by little efforts again.
Exactly. The daily reading, the consistent experimentation, the continuous questioning, the quiet reflection, the willingness to sit with ambiguity. That's what hones your perception. That's what allows you to eventually spot what others have overlooked.
It's the discipline of doing the uncomfortable work day in, day out that sharpens the mind for novelty.
I think that's right.
Which leads us beautifully to Naval Ravikant's distinction between knowledge and wisdom. That feels really relevant here.
Yeah, it's a great one. He says, knowledge is discovered by all of us, each adding to the whole. Wisdom is rediscovered by each of us, one at a time.
Okay. Knowledge is collective. Wisdom is individual. Unpack that.
What's profound is the implication that knowledge can be transmitted. You can read a book, go to a class, learn facts and theories from others. Humanity builds this collective pool.
We stand on the shoulders of giants.
Right. But wisdom has to be earned. You can't just download it.
It's not an external thing you collect, like stamps or facts.
No. It's an internal transformation. It's a deep understanding that comes only through personal experience, through the crucible of actually living it.
It's earned through the struggle, the mistakes, the failures, the gradual, uncomfortable progress we've been talking about.
Exactly. You can know, intellectually, that patience is a virtue. But you only gain wisdom about patience by repeatedly practicing it when you're frustrated out of your mind.
You can know about the hero's journey.
But you only gain wisdom about it by actually persevering through your own belly of the beast moments, your own periods of feeling lost and wanting to quit.
It's the lived experience of applying what you know, facing the discomfort, that turns knowledge into real integrated wisdom that guides your life.
That's it, exactly.
Okay, so as we bring this deep dive to a close, let's try to synthesize these powerful threads. We've seen Drucker's systematic approach to innovation in organizations,
which demands that uncomfortable self-assessment, facing the misses.
Converging with Pressfield's insights from the hero's journey.
Reminding us that struggle, feeling lost, the belly of the beast, these aren't bugs, they're features of growth.
And underpinning it all, the ethical clarity and internal resilience from philosophy, especially Stoicism.
Teaching us where our true control lies in our response.
It feels like these diverse sources really do reveal this coherent philosophy of growth, and it applies everywhere, doesn't it?
To all aspects of life, yeah.
Yeah.
From huge organizations down to your daily micro habits.
So the practical implication is actually pretty profound. Innovation isn't just about new products or clever ideas.
No. At its deepest level, it's inseparable from character development.
Whether you're leading change at work, trying to build better habits, doing creative work, or just navigating relationships.
You have to cultivate those psychological and philosophical resources, the ability to persist through uncertainty, to embrace discomfort, to learn from the messiness.
That's the core competence for life itself, maybe?
I think you could argue that.
And, lest this all sound incredibly grim and serious.
Like a joyless march of suffering. Yeah, let's avoid that.
Let's remember William Arthur Ward's observation. A well-developed sense of humor is the pole that adds balance to your steps as you walk the tightrope of life.
Ah, balance. That's crucial.
This whole challenging process of growth and innovation, it doesn't have to be devoid of joy. finding humor, finding perspective, even laughing at your own stumbles along the way.
That becomes part of the wisdom too, doesn't it? It adds that essential balance, stops you taking yourself or the struggle too seriously.
Yeah, appreciate the absurdity sometimes.
And finally, there's that interesting insight from Clarence Thomas, which subtly connects this internal growth to how we interact with the world.
What was that one?
Good manners will open doors that the best education cannot.
Good manners. How does that fit?
Well, it suggests that the wisdom we develop through embracing discomfort, through mastering our responses, through navigating all this uncertainty, ultimately it should manifest in how we treat other people.
In our respect, our consideration, how we engage socially.
Yeah. Maybe true innovation, in its fullest sense, isn't just about individual breakthroughs or corporate profits. Maybe it also contributes to a more flourishing, respectful, and ultimately a wiser collective world through how we conduct ourselves.
That's a lovely thought to end on. So maybe a final provocative thought for everyone listening to mull over.
Okay. How about this? The path forward, the path of real innovation and deep personal growth, it seems to require us to embrace this paradox.
The paradox that strength comes through vulnerability.
Yeah. That wisdom emerges from confusion. And that discovery often demands a willingness to be temporarily lost, totally adrift.
In the service of eventually finding something new, something better.
That's the practical wisdom, isn't it?
Yeah.
The wisdom that emerges when we actually integrate systematic thinking, psychological resilience, and philosophical clarity into this unified approach to growth and change.
Little by little.
Day by day.